100% of the women typed yes in the chat to say they wanted an encore because they understood this wasn't about quitting sugar in 5 days. It is way deeper than that. And they were there for the psychology-based rewiring that kicks in, and especially when life gets hard. Now, I recently helped 140 women quit sugar in 5 days because discipline and willpower haven't worked for them. And today I am breaking down the 3 hard lessons that I learned from this experience and what this means for you if you want to finally quit sugar. I'm taking you behind the scenes of the recent launch of my new program, Quit Sugar in 5 Days. So first, you're going to get a behind the scenes of how and why this experience was created and why you're going to get rocky road instead of vanilla. Second, how I grew as a coach and why that growth matters for you. And then third, as an emotional eater myself, it was how I managed the stress of 12-hour days for 6 weeks straight, 7 days a week, and the impact that these long hours took on my stress and the emotional eating and even my weight. And the reason that I'm taking you behind the scenes is because I know a lot of you listening, you've got careers, you're in corporate, you're fellow coaches, you have your own business. And honestly, looking under the hood of a product launch and getting the version of the story where everything isn't always perfect, yeah, it's kind of fun. So let's get into it. First on the debrief is the behind the scenes of creating Quit Sugar in 5 Days. And you've probably heard me talk about my signature program, which is the Break Emotional Eating Accelerator. And plus, I do some one-on-one private coaching for select clients. I wanted to add another product to the mix, and I wanted this to be this low ticket, no brainer kind of offer with a very specific transformation. I wanted to create an experience for women who wanted to quit sugar in 5 days. And I wanted to create it in a way that both supports what the women get inside of the Break Emotional Eating Accelerator. And I also wanted it to stand on its own. So someone can go through the Quit Sugar in 5 Days experience without the background of being inside the accelerator. So what I did was I took the emotional eating forensics framework that the accelerator is based on. This is the architecture, this is the roadmap. And I actually went up a level. So the concepts are at a higher level and the transformation is very specific. So if you're in the Break Emotional Eating Accelerator, you get the same principles, but it's just presented differently. And the reason I did that because I know personally when I hear things presented differently, sometimes it just finally clicks. Like I can hear it 100 times and then it's that 101st time where I'm like, "Oh, I get it now." It's the same concept. I love this phrase, you can't step in the same river twice. So the Quit Sugar in 5 Days experience was born, and I decided to make it a one-time payment of just $27. But this wasn't a PDF that I slapped together that you might think about like, "Oh, I'm gonna spend $27 on this PDF or this guide." This also wasn't me jumping on ChatGPT and saying, "Hey, ChatGPT, hey robot, make me a $27 program to help women quit sugar and let's spit this out in 5 minutes." No, this was created from hours and hours and hours of me spending time in the quiet. This was my own intellectual property. It was 6 weeks of anywhere from 10 to 12 to 15-hour days. This was hundreds of hours to create. This was my own blood, sweat, and tears to give you an experience. I wanted this experience to be genuinely worth $2,700. That was my goal. But most women want vanilla when it comes to weight loss or emotional eating. And what I mean by that is they want things like diets and mindful eating and willpower and intuitive eating and meal plans. They are in this mindset of just tell me what to do or just tell me what to eat. And They do it, they get their meal plan, they get their list of what to eat, and it's this dopamine rush that makes them feel good about fake progress. And I know instantly when I meet this kind of woman because she has no interest in committing to the real work that is required to make this sustainable. It's almost like she was born without this switch. And I can tell you exactly what happens is they keep going back to the same vanilla advice. And when the meal plan and the diet and the mindful eating, when that doesn't work, they complain about their situation. They blame their hormones. They blame perimenopause, or they say, oh, well, my spouse sabotages my progress. But I know for a fact that because you listen to my podcast, you get my newsletter, you follow me on Instagram, you understand the principles behind this. You understand this was never about what to eat. You understand that real lasting transformation, real change, it comes from a different place. I am not the vanilla coach who regurgitates what she learned in her nutrition certification. I am not here to give you a meal plan so you can feel good about fake progress. I am full on rocky road. And when you go through this experience to quit sugar in 5 days, you will know for a fact if I'm the coach for you. And I may not be that coach. I am not the coach for fence sitters. I'm not the coach that's going to tell you what you want to hear. I am the coach who's going to challenge you to think differently. I'm going to challenge you to rise, to remember who you really are. And not everyone wants that. I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and I am totally okay with that. And that's what I'm going to be jumping into next, but let me finish up here first. We had 140 women join the first time around. So we did part pre-recorded content and part live. And my goal for this was to be a beta launch to determine, is this something that I want to scale? Is this something that can grow and scale? And the proof of concept proved that viability. So I am going to be growing and scaling this program. And here's exactly how I know that. On day 3, at the very beginning of the live call, so all they literally had at that point was some of the pre-challenge materials and the bonus materials. They had one pre-recorded session for day 1, and they had one live session for day 2. So we were only at the very beginning of day 3. It wasn't even at the end of the week. And I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this again. I'm thinking about doing an encore week again, live, like live coaching again. Who would be interested in something like that? And 100% of the ladies in attendance typed yes in the chat. Meaning, at that point, we were 2/5 into the experience. And they already got enough value out of it that they're like, yeah, let's do this again. So right now, at the time of this recording, and of course things may change, but right now, this very second, you can get access today to Quit Sugar in 5 days for one-time admission of $27. You get the entire product, you get the experience, you get the replays, and I am going to host an encore week that we are going to be live the week of February 23rd to 27th. And then my goal is to do this live maybe once a quarter or so. And here's the best part. All of the live recordings are going to be uploaded into the portal. So you join once, $27, one-time investment, and you get access to everything. You get the recordings, you get the bonuses, and then you're going to get free admission anytime I decide to do this live again. So if you're interested in joining, the link is below the video here that you're watching, and you can go do that right now. Again, I wanted this to be a no-brainer for the woman who wants to quit sugar. Like, she would feel stupid for not doing this. If she wants to quit sugar, this is the way to do it. Which brings us to the second part of the debrief, and that's how I've grown as a coach and what specifically this means for you. So in addition to the growth that the challenge participants experience, I had my own metamorphosis as a coach. And I could try to posture like, oh, I'm the coach that has it all figured out. But I'm not. And I'm not ashamed to say that I have grown a lot as a coach, just even this past year. And that's what I want to share next, because if you are watching, chances are you've had this experience of feeling like I'm not good enough. I have 4 certifications in health and nutrition and metabolic health. But at the same time, I had so much doubt and imposter syndrome in my ability to coach. And I thought that the more certifications that I had, the better coach I would be. But the problem with that was that everything that I learned, it was from the textbook. Humans are not textbook. Back when I turned 49 years old, I was fat, I was inflamed, and I did exactly what I had learned in my 4 certifications. And nothing that I learned helped me to lose weight, and especially nothing helped me to control my cravings and to stop eating everything in sight. That's the whole reason why I created the emotional eating forensics framework. It's because humans respond to food from the primitive part of our brain, which doesn't understand the language of meal plans. It doesn't understand calories or mindful eating. I created this based on strategy and patterns that I learned as the FBI's Chief of Staff for Counterintelligence. But the dark side of all of this, and this is the vulnerable stuff that I never like to share. For the longest time, I was too scared to put myself out there. I was too scared to share the new methodology, to share the emotional eating forensics framework. Because the second I got any kind of pushback, I perceived this as a personal attack. And not to go all childhood trauma on you, but in first grade, when we played tag on the playground, and you know the game, it's a tag, you're it. Well, I was always it because I was too slow and I was too chunky to catch the other kids. So the boys started calling me it, and that nickname that lasted through 12th grade. And it wasn't just the boys. I'd sit down at the lunch table with my girlfriends. They would stand up and walk away and sit somewhere else. So for decades, I had this insatiable need for acceptance and for validation. I was only good enough if my peers accepted me. So these days, the bullies, they are not on the playground or in the lunchroom. They're friends in real life. They are all over social media. And for the longest time, again, I was just so scared to put the emotional eating forensics framework out there because every time I did, I would get some kind of backlash. And especially, it wasn't so bad from just random strangers on the internet, but I took it like a dagger in my heart when it came from other health coaches. I even lost a friend in real life because of it. So insecure Holly went right back to the playground, right back to the lunch table. I went back to being the weird and awkward kid sitting at the table all by myself. And the only thing that I wanted was to be accepted by my peers. But I knew deep down, if I want to help my students and my clients get the most radical transformations, that I can't play small anymore, that I have to show up as my most radical self. And as I was creating Quit Sugar in 5 Days, I kept repeating, what would this look like if I showed up as a coach from this perspective of no consequences? That I created this program where I didn't give a flying rat what other health coaches would think, that I could be full on rocky road. If I was true to myself, I was completely aligned. I was authentic and true to myself with what I believe to the core. What would that look like? And how would I show up as a coach? My friend, if you've been in the personal development space for more than a second, you understand the second you drop the BS, the second you drop the mask, and you remember who you are, that is the version of you that is completely unstoppable, which ironically is exactly what I help my students and my clients do. But that right here, that made all of the difference in the world. I became the horse with the blinders on. I was so laser focused with this path in front of me. I wasn't worried about what anyone else was saying. I didn't care about what the other coaches said. I just didn't care. It didn't even enter my mind. I just stayed laser focused on how can I help these students get the most radical results in 5 days. And because of that, I showed up as a completely different coach. And I know for a fact that I am never going back to the old way again. There's a quote that I had heard, and I can't remember who said it, but it's something like, I'm not going to take your praise personally because that means I have to take your criticism personally. And it took me a long time to actually understand this concept, especially because how I coach, it goes against what is traditionally taught. And there are plenty of coaches who don't agree with me. And finally, I am okay with that. Finally. And in that process, I found support from some incredible coaches and dear friends, and I appreciate that too. But regardless of any of that, I have learned to separate my value from acceptance. And that feeling right there is so incredibly freeing. Now, the takeaway that I want you to get from this, the takeaway that I want you to have, I want you to have that same kind of conviction about yourself. Whether it's in the Break Emotional Eating Accelerator, whether it's as a private client, or whether you quit sugar in 5 days, I want you to walk away with a transformation that you are so absolutely convicted in who you are and what you stand for, and especially your perspective around food and around your health. I want you to be so incredibly convicted in who you are that you are never going to go back to that old place again, which is the perfect segue to the debrief number 3, which is how I handled stress from 12 hours a day, 6 weeks straight. So the third part of the debrief that I want to share is from this perspective because I am a recovered emotional eater, a recovered sugaraholic, and how I actually handled the stress. I mean, it was six weeks straight. It was anywhere from 10 to 12 to 15-hour days. I worked 7 days a week. And I'm also going to share what the scale said at the end because I think you're going to be really surprised. And it seems like, how do I say this? It seems like we live every single day of our life like we are being chased by the saber-toothed tiger because we've got work stress and then we've got family commitments and then we're jumping on social media. We can't escape from it. And then we also have those day-to-day, the gotcha moments. You lose your keys, you forget your phone, you had to work late, you got in an argument with your spouse, you did not get a good night's sleep. And when this happens, we make a beeline for the comfort food. We go straight to the comfort food. Food becomes our safety, food becomes our reward, it's our consolation prize, and it is our best friend. It is the only thing that understands us. So this was a season of high stress for me. And what was fascinating was that even though the hours were long and the days were long, that there was this low grade stress that was there. But I didn't feel the anxiety spikes like I used to. And at first I kept life pretty normal. Like I, would still go to the gym and still kept to my schedule and everything like that. But I realized I can't go to the gym and work a 12-hour day. It was just too much for me. So I went to plan B. I worked out at my home gym. But then that was too much. I could tell my cortisol and my adrenals were just jacked. And even though I have long put my Hashimoto's into remission, even though I am no longer experiencing any of the side effects, the last thing I am going to do, I absolutely refuse to play roulette with my cortisol and my adrenals. I have come too far with my health and it is not worth it. So I made a choice. I made a decision. I did not work out, which is difficult to do when that is such a huge part of your lifestyle. And the other thing that I did, this is where it gets kind of interesting. The other thing that I did, the food that I normally ate, it actually stayed consistent. And I wasn't even conscious of this at first. It was actually after the fact. And I realized, hey, back in the day when I used to be under a lot of stress, I would eat nonstop. Nonstop. It was all sugar. And this time around, I wasn't eating anything else. Like I was just eating normal. No extra sugar, no extra cravings, no extra binge eating, nothing. So when everything was over, I jumped on the scale. And I will tell you what that number is in a minute. You've heard me talk about how nutrition and exercise and stress, it is like a game of rock, paper, scissors. So you've got exercise and movement and lifting weights, and it's good for healthy weight management. It's good for your mental health, lifting especially. It's good for strong bones and muscles. The determining factor of what the skill is going to do is going to be based on what you eat. But the stress is actually the wild card, and stress is always going to win. So it's a game of rock, paper, scissors. All right, what this means is that you can have your nutrition dialed in, you can have your exercise dialed in. But if you are living in high stress, the scale is probably not going to move. It could potentially go up, it's not going to go down. So, knowing what I just shared, looking at those three factors, stress was high, exercise was low, and nutrition was the same. Based on that data, what do you think the scale said? And by the way, as you are thinking, I do not place my value as a human being based on the number between my two big toes. It is just a data point. So at the end of those 6 weeks, the scale did not budge. It was the exact same number as when I started, which tells me three things. And here's what this means for you. First, once you've made that transition from losing weight to when your body is finally in maintenance mode, everything is easier. Your body is just cruising along even when there's speed bumps on the road. Second, it is possible to go through a season where life is not perfect and you have stress and you have to make sacrifices and you can still maintain your weight. And third, what you eat or don't eat is everything. So, my friend, I hope you enjoyed the debrief. I hope you had some of your own takeaways and aha moments. If you've been sitting on the fence about quitting sugar in 5 days and you are ready to finally see why sugar keeps winning, if you're ready to feel how fast those cravings start to lose their grip, doors are open and I encourage you to join us. It is just $27. It's one-time admission and you get access to everything right away. The link to join is below this video.